I'm Chris James. I'm from Cherokee, North Carolina, home of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, and I am president and CEO of the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development. So originally from Western North Carolina, born and raised there. My family had small businesses on the reservation. We call it the Koala Boundary for the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, and that's where all my roots are. My grandmother had this craft shop in this old dilapidated building by the river where it looked like any time it could just tip off and go down the river, and that's where I spent a lot of my time with my grandparents and my parents and working in those businesses.
What do those businesses all entail?
Restaurants. So I spent a lot of time making pizzas and burgers. The coffee industry, it's a tough business to be in, but it also can be very rewarding when you are creating something and serving people. And my dad used to say, you can almost learn everything in life behind a cash register. And I sort of use that as a philosophy in my life and all the things that I did. I think it helps you be humble and helps you, see things a different way when you're always on the flip side in the service industry.
Can you tell us a little bit about your work that you're doing currently?
Yeah, so the National Center, we're a nonprofit 501c3. We were established in the late 60s. The idea was when the National Center was established, it was established by business owners who didn't have any resources for American Indian Alaska Native resources for their companies. So they decided to get together and say, hey, let's create a network and it formed out of the LA Chamber of Commerce in California. And through the years, it's grown and grown. And now it's located here in Phoenix, Arizona, or Mesa, Arizona. We have 7 offices throughout the United States. We service about 1,000, 1,100 business owners throughout the United States from almost every state. And we also work with tribe on tribal economic development initiatives.
Can you just speak on how you got to where you're at today? What were the steps you took? How did you build a network? What doors opened to you? And can you just tell us what that progression was like?
Yeah, absolutely. So graduated from college, I ended up moving back home to Cherokee, worked for my dad, for a few years, and I really enjoyed being part of the economic development strategy for the Eastern Band. So I was on various committees and things like that. I had an opportunity to help develop what's called a community development financial institution, which is a small business loan fund. We provided business loans to tribal members who, may not either want to get traditional financing or, there just wasn't the traditional financing option. And there really wasn't any open doors there. There was an opportunity for a job and I went for it. I applied, I went through the interview process, and I was hired on. And usually that's how I've always had every opportunity that I've had. It wasn't that I had a whole bunch of recommendation letters or I had a huge network. It was that I made the decision to go for it. And, especially if it's outside of the community that you've lived in and grew up in, for me, making that leap to sort of say, oh, I'm going to go for it, or I'm going to moved to Washington, D.C. That was sort of my next phase of life where, again, I had been working for a nonprofit, a loan fund for the tribe for about 3 years. A friend of mine said, hey, there's this job in Washington, D.C. You should apply for it. And I literally said, they're not going to hire someone from Cherokee, North Carolina to go work in Washington, D.C. And my friend was like, well, you never know, if you don't apply. I applied for the job. And I applied in October, and by January, I'm moving to Washington, D.C. So really just taking that effort. And of course, you're always looking for networks to help support you, but a lot of times it's just sort of building that in yourself. And that's how I've sort of done every job.